it's Wednesday, so time for our Pastor's Corner devotional series. Again, these are just short devotional material for 5 minutes just to encourage you or maybe challenge you or make you think throughout your week. And we've been looking at what it means for us to be the citizens of the kingdom. And with that, we focus in on Matthew chapter 5, and we're looking at Jesus' blessings. And in that, he's challenging us as people who call ourselves Jesus people. He's challenging us with what are the attitudes or perspectives we need to have when it comes to being a citizen of God's kingdom. So we're in Matthew chapter 5, verse 9, and this is what it says. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. I want to start off with that word peace for a minute. I think every one of us is searching for this notion of peace. It's the idea of rest or security or just knowing that everything is okay and everything is taken care of. And we struggle with that because when we don't have peace, we find that it just chips away at our lives. It just wears us down. It makes us fractured and it makes us worried and anxious. And I want to start off by saying this. The first thing is, where can we find this peace? And I really would say that it's only really found in Jesus Christ. We're looking for it. We're looking for it in all kinds of different places. And the reality is, I think we are designed to really only find peace through Jesus. And so that's the first area to start with. Now let's deal with the fact that we're called to be peacemakers. What does that mean? For some of us, we will hear that, and that means for us avoiding conflict or avoiding difficulties, smoothing everything over. And I'm going to say to you, that's not a real biblical example of peace. Some of us think that when we deal with inappropriate comments, it's easy to just change the subject, brush it off, or laugh at it, just so that we can keep everyone happy and keep the peace amongst each other. Jesus always did this. He confronted the truth of reality. And when he confronted the truth of reality, sometimes his words were harsh, but they were still very loving. Jesus confronted everything with both grace and truth. He dealt with religious leaders. He called them hypocrites. He was harsh with them because they needed to hear the reality of their spiritual condition. And when he dealt with quote-unquote sinners, he dealt with them compassionately because they needed to hear the reality of their situation. In all of that, Jesus is saying to us or challenging us to think this way. Deal with the reality. Deal with the truth. Deal with it in grace. Because the fact is, we avoid, and when we avoid conflict and when we avoid all these problems, we're not dealing with the reality. And we will never have peace because they will always, and we may look good on the outside and think everything is okay on the outside, but deep inside, it's still struggle. It's still restless. It's still this idea of being anxious and worried. As he says, peacemaking. Peacemaking requires grace and truth. I mean, gracious people are wonderful to be around. They say all the right things. They do all the right things. They make you feel good. Truth people are slightly harder to be around, but you admire them for their conviction and their principles. And Jesus is challenging us to always have both. Not one or the other, not half of each, but both. See, when we are able to confront the truth of who we are, confront the truth of our realities, Jesus Christ works in us and we will find that peace that we're looking for. And where we're called to be peacemakers, we're called to confront those truths and realities, both with grace and truth. Don't go off and try to brush it off or tell everyone that everything's going to be okay when it's not, or just, laugh it off and avoid uncomfortable situations. We're called by Jesus to speak truth, to be able to speak truth in grace. And that's the hard part, is that we need to be ever discerning in that. But again, if we are really purposeful in our relationship with Jesus, we need him to help us to speak grace and truth so that we would be peacemakers. Our job is not to be peacekeepers. It's not to just smooth things over for people. It's to always confront the truth in grace. And that's what it means for us to be a peacemaker. After all, we'll be called children of God. We're this family language. We'll have to deal with the good, the bad, and the ugly. All of our families, we all have to deal with the good, the bad, and the ugly. Every time we avoid it, we never find peace, do we? If we're always struggling with our kids, and we're avoiding the situation, if we're always struggling with our spouse, but we're avoiding it because we just want to maintain the peace so that nobody argues, we're never going to find peace. It's only when we confront the truth of those realities with grace that we'll find peace. So I hope that's an encouragement and challenge you as you go out and be peacemakers in God's kingdom. Love and peace. We'll see you again next time.